Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on the show. Today, our first guest of the new year, Amanda Wallace, is with us. How are you doing today, Amanda?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So, I was super drawn to you when we met online. We were talking about holistic health, and you have a really special journey that you had holistic healing kind of play a role in as you built yourself back into health with a relationship with food, and then how you used holistic healing that also kind of intertwined its way into your life the way it is now. And can you share with us how you help people and a little bit about how your holistic healing shaped who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Amanda Wallace, and I'm an emotional healing coach. And what that means is I work with women who struggle with emotions like anxiety, depression, fatigue is a huge one, overwhelm, all the different things that just plague our lives, especially with women. So I help women heal those emotions naturally at the core so that they can be empowered to become the best version of themselves, to live the life that they desire and not have to constantly rely on some sort of medication or therapy or any of those things. Not that, therapy is bad, but I help women heal permanently.
I love that. I can identify with that completely, as I understand what you're saying about therapy, as I think therapy has its place and is valuable in itself. Sometimes it's really helpful to tackle things in a way that allows you to heal for in a permanent way, in a lifelong way. And so that's really cool that your journey has allowed you to be able to do that for other women as well. That is so cool. What exactly did you go through that you felt the healing journey really took? How did you use holistic healing to recover in your own life?
So it has been an absolutely crazy journey. As far as I can remember, I had issues with myself. Just me. I didn't like me. And it started with I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like I was heavier when I was in high school, and for no other reason, just hormones when I was a teenager. So I didn't like how I looked. I didn't like how I thought people perceived me, and I just couldn't stand myself. So as a teenager, I began to restrict the things that I ate. Um, Down to like I would only allow myself to eat pickles. That's it,
Wow.
because there's no fat in pickles, and, I wouldn't pass out. So, I restricted my eating that way, and then I realized that, I needed to eat other foods, so then I started, overdoing it with, laxatives, and, that didn't make me feel any better about myself. It was supposed to, it didn't, and then I started self-mutilating. um, I would eraser burn myself. It was an awful couple years, and that then progressed into drug addiction. So I was constantly looking for something to make me feel better about who I was,
Mm.
and nothing did it. And I remember when I was first finally excited about what I looked like in the mirror, and I was like 90 pounds and strung out on drugs. And
Gosh.
it was like the worst thing to be excited about, but I was. And life just continued to go downhill. So I got to a point where I had to get clean, and so I did. And after I got clean, I started to deal with these crazy emotions that were somewhat like the original emotions, but by far worse. So not only now did I not like myself, and I was depressed, but then anxiety kicked in, and then rage, like serious rage kicked in. I was just angry and I screamed like my whole neighborhood could probably hear me screaming. And I got to this point of I can't stand myself. I need to do something to actually fix it. What is going on here? I need to fix this. Right. And I I stumbled on all these things on Facebook about, natural healing and hormones and, how they go, your mental health goes hand in hand with hormones. So then I started ordering all these books and reading all these books. And I had this aha, that's it. That's what's going on. I am not nurturing me. And so I began this holistic journey in healing myself, through essentially creating life balance. And I can't I can't even put into words how amazing it made me feel and continues to make me feel. So I mean that's that's a pretty big journey, but I mean
Totally. That's beautiful. I loved how you talked about you picked up some books and you had an aha moment. And what were some of the things that you needed to target right away when you had that moment?
my physical health, right? And so that was the very first thing that I needed to tackle, and not not my physical health in terms of restricting my eating, which is what I previously thought was healthy for me, but my physical health as in like getting the required nutrients for my body to thrive, like really, really thrive. Making sure that I was getting the sleep that I needed. So I had to put new habits in place in order to make sure that I was getting the sleep that I needed. Making sure I was getting a healthy amount of exercise, not overdoing it and not being lazy, but getting that healthy balance in there. And once that physical aspect got into balance, then I branched on to, nurturing my mind and my spirit. And, it all came together.
That's amazing. I also wanted to ask you how your physical health and your mental health kind of intertwine together throughout your healing. And I feel like you just answered part of that. And I loved how you mentioned sleep and how important sleep is for healing the body, since that's really the time that our body has to rest and repair. So it sounds like you were able to recognize that right away, and that made a huge difference for you. And could you describe what you were feeling like emotionally as you were going through this healing, like from the beginning when you were maybe just starting into like as the months went on?
Yeah. So as I was in the beginning, when I was focusing on my physical health, energetically, I started to feel better. I had more motivation to do things. I, wasn't quite as tired and grumpy, which helped me to get through the day being less, angry, which, like I said, I was struggling with rage. Um, and so that helped me significantly. In the beginning, though, I had to like the physical health wasn't exactly enough to just all of a sudden make a complete turnaround in one day. I had to
Totally.
be consciously aware of my behaviors and my thoughts and what was going on, like, so for instance, I homeschool my kids, and it can be nerve-wracking some days. And that was when I found that I became the angriest, because I would have one kid bouncing off the walls, I would have another kid complaining she didn't want to do school, I'd have a toddler running around, and I would just become so infuriated. And I had to get, consciously aware of, okay, if this is what is triggering this anger, how can I do this differently? Right. And when I would feel the emotions coming up, I would stop. Like, we went through a time period where we took a lot of breaks in school because that's what I needed. So in the very beginning, I had to get that physical health aspect, but like it was also a struggle still until I became consciously aware of what was going on to trigger these emotions and trigger these thoughts that were going on. And that was something that took a lot of work. Now, not so much. It just comes naturally.
Totally. So when you're talking about the awareness that you encountered and the breaks that you noticed you were having to take school with your kids, was there anything that you started to do once you gained awareness that really helped you find that solid balance inside? Like any habits that you felt really, really made a big difference in your ability to balance your life?
Absolutely. So in the beginning, when I wasn't very like spiritually connected, I, in order to keep note of what was going on and what was triggering me, I kept a little notebook and I would write things down. Like I would write down, I screamed about this, at this time of day, and leading up to it, this happened. And I would start to see a pattern after a few days, I started to see a pattern. So that was how I did that in the beginning. But as I started to connect more spiritually, meditation took a big hold. And so I started meditating a lot in the morning, halfway through the day, and then again, even before bed to help me sleep. And then from the meditation, I started taking walks in the morning and being aware of everything going on around me. And by doing these things, it helped me become aware of my thoughts and my feelings all throughout the course of the day.
Definitely. Yeah, that mindful moment where you can just pull yourself into the awareness. And I don't know if this makes sense at all or if you've experienced this, but there seems to be like a peace that you can just sit with when you can recognize, like, I can like be happy and present in this moment, even though my life isn't perfect. Did you encounter that feeling at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what so that's what kind of filled me up inside, right? Because when we deal with, any kind of, emotional issues, issue isn't the word, but like addictions, anything of that sort, what's going on inside of us is we actually have this void, right? We have this emptiness in there that needs to be filled. And we look to the wrong things to try to fill it, to try to make us feel, happy and secure. And what I found was intentionally focusing on the things that I am grateful for and the positive things going on around me took the focus off of all the negative things. You can't
Yeah,
focus on the positive and the negative at the same time.
I agree. Oh my gosh, you're speaking like words in like life into me right now as you're talking, because I think that even with many years of practicing gratitude, sometimes like the more that you progress in the new seasons that life brings, sometimes you have to relearn those things as well. And I just really appreciate that you mentioned the gratitude, because as we hear be thankful, sometimes I feel like it can fall on deaf ears because we hear it so much, but it's critically important every single day. You guys, I talk about this once in a while on my show too. So this like lines up perfectly with the message and everything like that.
It really is so important for so many different aspects of our lives. Like that gratitude piece is necessary.
I totally agree. I totally agree. There's something that happens when you start to be thankful inside of your brain, and when you can focus on what's going well, it's almost like an antidepressant in itself.
Mhm.
And I know that you talked about medication before, and I would love to talk about that for a minute, but what do you what has your experience been like with medications for mental health? Have you been on medications before yourself?
Yes, I was, and I never liked them. I never liked how they made me feel. So I was on, something for depression as, a teenager, and was in treatment as a teenager for depression. And as an adult, I was on medication for PTSD, which I acquired through a horrific relationship. Um, so I was on medication and in therapy for that, and I just never liked it. It never sat well with me. It kind of made me feel like a zombie and not being able to really feel. my emotions. And I know I was running from my emotions, but I didn't want to be a zombie either. So there's that. But then also when I found out just how hazardous they are to your health and how many long-term effects come along with every, mental health medication out there. That was like enough for me to just throw it out the window.
Wow, that's thank you for sharing your experience with that. I can really value that because working in healthcare, you know, seeing people so dependent on these medications, but yet they're still so sick, always seems to provide this sort of clash in what seem the reality is versus what the promise is with the medication. And so I think that that's something that never really sat well with me, even with mental health medications. I never really saw these medications making like much of a difference in myself when I took Prozac. And I was even at a point where I was taking 3 times the dose and it wasn't doing anything. And I was sure that I was experiencing side effects. And it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, I think I'd rather try something natural and go from there and see if there was anything that my body was missing, like omega 3s, for example. And is there anything that you could share with our listeners that you really swear by when it comes to keeping your mental health, in a high place besides what you mentioned with the gratitude practice?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am, while I truly believe that we need that mind, body, spirit balance, like, and that is so important. A real key aspect to that is making sure that your hormones are functioning properly. And the way to make sure that your hormones are functioning properly is making sure that you're getting the essential vitamins and minerals that you need. And a lot of people forget the mineral aspect.
Right.
It's so important for hormone production. And if your hormones are out of whack, so is everything else.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I don't think that we often get told this information. I'm really glad that you're bringing this up right now because a lot of times, we go to the doctor and we say, I'm feeling depressed, and the first solution is an antidepressant instead of saying, okay, well, let's look at the vitamins and minerals and let's look at, what is your daily intake of certain foods look like. And I really wish that in our healthcare system and our, just the way that we approach wellness as a society was more oriented in this direction. I think that we could really heal, we could be a lot happier, and we could be feeling better and honestly more engaged in our lives if we could just have those minerals and just a balance with our nutrition so we could be able to have that hormone balance. I'm completely with you. I love talking about this stuff. I think it's something that it shouldn't be like a hidden secret, but it almost feels like, you know, when you're telling somebody, it feels like, why is this nobody really is paying attention to this as much as maybe they should. So I'm
Right.
really super glad that you brought that up. I had an interesting experience actually at a holistic doctor about a year ago where I was put on a mineral supplement because I was feeling depressed. And once I was put on a mineral supplement, I it was just this feeling that I had within the first few days of taking it was just night and day. And sometimes with mental health changes, it's almost like a gradual sort of like progression down. So sometimes you don't realize how different you're feeling when it's a gradual progression. I've noticed like in the cycles of my own life. So it was just really cool to see that like, oh, within like a few days, like of having these essential minerals and like a boost in them, like maybe we don't always need to be on a supplement for it, but once you can get your diet dialed in and everything like that, it's just such an amazing contrast, like how different you feel. And so that's why it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And those minerals really make a huge difference because, in society, like you're right, the medical field, they push medications. And then sometimes you have those doctors that are like, are you taking vitamins? And then they don't really ask you, what are you taking? Right. And I don't think I've literally ever heard a doctor ask me if I was taking minerals, ever. Like, I found this in all of my research, and when I started taking minerals, it made a huge difference in the way that I felt, but also I noticed a difference with my children too. Like my daughter, who normally wakes up like 6 times a night. If
Oh,
I give her minerals before bed, she might wake up twice. So
oh
like it
wow.
really makes a difference.
Yeah. Would you share with anybody curious, like what minerals you like to focus on for yourself and also your children?
So yeah, I personally take a mixture of like trace minerals that have like magnesium in them, copper. There's I'm trying to think. There's iron. Oh my god. There's so many different things in these trace minerals. I should have brought them over here so I could show them all to you. But I really think that essentially we need all of them
Yeah, yeah.
in balance. So I don't think that there's one in particular that we need more than another. We just kind of need to have them in balance, as well as the vitamins that we're taking.
I totally agree. And all the trace minerals I've taken, it seems to be, yeah, they include like magnesium, iron, boron, copper. And those are some of the ones that I've seen across the mineral supplements that I've been taking. And then it's really, it really does make a difference. And the nice thing is there's so many like good products out there that you can buy even at health food stores and places from your doctor. Sometimes at certain doctors' offices, they have like really good formulas that they recommend. So there's never any shortage in available options for us. So that's a blessing.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you have learned not to settle in your life. And I've heard you talk about this as I've watched you online. And this is something that's dear to my heart. So I want to talk to you and hear from you what that means to you in your life and how you started to not settle for less.
Yeah, so I grew up with just like this scarcity mindset, right? That any love was better than no love. It didn't matter if it was, mean and abusive, it was better than nothing at all. Or any money was better than no money. Just be grateful is what I would tell myself. Just be grateful for the little bit that you have, because it could be worse. And while that sounds good, that set my standards really low. And it didn't feel very good inside. I put myself in some like really yucky situations because I set my standards so low. And it was because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I said, I always struggled with, me, and not liking who I was. And because of that, I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I was, worthy of love. I didn't feel like I was worthy of money. I didn't, feel like I was worthy of a luxurious, happy life. I just felt like this is it for me, down there at my bottom. This is it for me. And, at least I'm breathing. And as I as I started to, as I started to heal my emotions, I started to feel more confident, and more I valued myself more, and I started to love who I see in the mirror, not just, physically, but like me as a human being. And I realized that like me as a human being, I'm like I'm a freaking awesome person. And it and it's not because I'm better than anybody else. I just love who I am now. And because I love who I am, I know that I am worthy of the things that I want. I am worthy of my desires, and I don't have to settle for any less than what I know that I deserve. And I refuse to. And that just came from, like I said, through healing my emotions. The learning to love myself just came right along with it. I really didn't have to do anything extra there. I just learned to love myself, and now I don't believe in settling. I don't believe that any of us should settle. We are all born worthy.
Amen, sister. I had to go through a very similar journey when I was healing, and I think that sometimes our beliefs, they contribute to keeping us sick because they keep us in a certain frame of mind. And when we feel like we don't deserve something, it tends to filter into all these different areas. And that's why I really like talking about holistic healing, because I feel like if we neglect, any area of our lives and we have that mindset of lack that you talked about, it can really prevent us from up leveling and moving forward in those areas. And unfortunately, if one of these areas of our lives is unbalanced, it's hard to achieve complete balance in any of the containers. So I just really, really value that perspective. I'm glad that you had that breakthrough in your mind where throughout that season you just believed that you deserve better and you didn't have to settle because you're so amazing. And that's honestly like something that we all need to like learn how to do, honestly, if we want to be happy, if we want to thrive in our lives, and we want to just know that like we can get what we deserve, and we do deserve it, at our core. Like we don't have to
Mhm.
prove anything. And I think that when you're talking about those spiritual practices and like the mindfulness that you talked about, sitting with yourself like every day or every time you go on a walk or something like that, like just kind of infusing yourself with that thought and those like realizations that I do deserve it, I'm worthy. Those things, like even if you don't 100% believe it yet, I think they can change the way that our cells behave, and they can heal the inside of our body. And
Exactly.
yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, it really is, and like you said, it doesn't always just come naturally, especially in the beginning. Sometimes we just have to keep telling ourselves these things until we believe it, but eventually we believe it.
Yes, eventually you do, because once you begin to talk to yourself in a different way, you begin to start making different decisions based on the conversation that you're having with yourself.
Mhm.
And those decisions, they actually help your relationships too. And I feel like relationships are something that can build or break us. I personally believe that. And when you can start to love yourself and be on that journey of talking up to yourself instead of, tearing yourself down every day and telling yourself, I don't deserve this. There are many people listening to this episode that they sincerely believe that they don't deserve to eat. And I'm sure that you can identify with that feeling when you can go back to that old version of you who was only eating pickles. And that's just not true. And the more that you can start to take those thoughts and start combating them with the opposite, or something that you'd rather have believing, like you'd rather believe instead in your mind, you do that every single day, and you become closer to making different decisions about your food intake. You become closer to making different decisions about who you spend your time with. And it's difficult to see right in the moment, but you string all of those decisions together in a number of days, weeks, and months, and your life begins to change. And so does the belief that you have about yourself, because it all feeds back into each other. And like when you can notice your life changing in front of your eyes, you realize, wow, like it really is possible for me. And that's why I don't want anybody to give up if they have a bad day, or they feel like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I love myself today. I don't love the way that I look today. I must not be worthy. That's not true. Just
No.
remember, we don't always feel the best, but it doesn't determine our worth or what's true about us. So take what Amanda has said to heart about what you deserve and not settling for less. And Amanda, I'd love for you to talk about your best advice that you'd share with somebody really struggling to heal from an eating disorder or physical ailment, or just really frustrating circumstances in life. What would you say to them?
These feelings and these struggles don't have to be permanent. And as much as they might feel like they just are and they're part of who you are, you can make the choice to not have it be that way. And it- just really creating that life balance, that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, like creating balance in every area of your life, as hard as that might seem in the moment, just taking those small steps to doing that will change everything. It will literally change your life. So I mean, that's my best advice. Just like know that it doesn't have to be this way. There are other people out there that, are healing, and you can do it too. Just practice that life balance.
I love it. That's so amazing and such good sound advice for our listeners. I think that a lot of times, like, we all can fall victim to just thinking about way too much at once and like taking on the world all at once because it feels like everything needs to be solved. And well, a lot may need to be solved and helped and healed. It doesn't mean that well, to begin with, it's not possible to do it all at once. So breaking it down and just recognizing that little by little you can rebuild your situation and rebuild the way that you are experiencing your life. And there is healing for you. I love that so much. Thank you for that advice for our listeners. And as we wrap up, I would love to ask you, how are you helping women? What are you offering right now? And how can we get connected with you?
So the easiest way to get connected with me is just look me up on Facebook, look up Amanda Wallace on Facebook. My group is Manifesting Tranquility, and there's an awesome community. It's only women in there so that it's a safe space for women. But it's an awesome community of women helping to build each other up and, go on this journey together. As far as what I'm offering, I have multiple different programs that work for different people according to, what they're specifically struggling with. The best thing that I can say is one-on-ones. One-on-ones are great, because we can really get to know each other and work out a specialized plan that will work specifically for you. So look me up on Facebook, look up Manifesting Tranquility, and, we can definitely get in touch with a line and work out a special plan.
Definitely. Yes. So you guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link her Facebook community in the show notes to this episode. And then we're going to provide a link so you can get in touch with Amanda one-on-one so you can receive help and just be able to organize a one-on-one plan if this is something that really speaks to you and you're ready to start tackling it in the new year. So Amanda, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We've been so blessed by you and your story. I just wanted to thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. This has been wonderful, and it's been good for me and my soul too. So thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I absolutely love these interviews. They're one of my favorite things that I am blessed to be able to do as I have this podcast and as we start to reach more people, in our own circles and our own communities. It's really, I think, a blessing to be able to collaborate and share with each other and share with each other's communities what's helped us, because that's really what it's all about, is getting them the best information possible available from the people that have walked through the struggle themselves, and we can just point out what was working well and what didn't work. And that's why I really, really just love these opportunities. So, all right. Well, I am super excited to have this episode air, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.